Find a part of the day where you can just sing for joy. So you don't have an audience, you don't have, I don't know, the anxieties of judgment or anything like that. And just open your mouth and sing, and who cares how you sound?
Yeah.
Sing badly, sing brilliantly, doesn't matter, but just find a point in your day when you can sing and it feels good. Another great workshop I did at VCA was with Ben Vereen, and he said to us one day, he's like, as a performing artist, school is never out. And the day you believe you know everything, stop doing it. And I loved it too. And I loved it then, I was 19, but even now at my age, I'm just like, yeah, like I will never ever know everything and be able to do everything, but I can learn. If I can't do that now, it doesn't mean I might not be able to if I actually set my mind to it. So yeah, to this day, I'm just all about what I can learn and how I can grow, because I think that's the beauty of being a creative. It's kind of endless what we can do. A friend of mine once said, what's meant for me is already mine, you know, which I really love now, because I've gone into auditions before. I'm like, this is my show. I'm meant to do this show, and then have not made it to finals and been devastated because I've been like, oh no, that's my show. Like I'm meant to do that. You know? And then, like I said, going in for other shows where I've gone no way, and then booking them. So just try. And if you want it and if you love it, like it'll work for you, but you've just got to really love it and really want it. And that's been my whole career.
Hello and welcome back to the Dive podcast, where each week we interview professional performing artists as we discuss their stories and dive deeper into learning how to navigate the challenges we face as artists. I'm your host, Taylor Scanlon, and today we'll be exploring topics on how to find creativity and inspiration when you're not in full-time work, and also have a look at how to maintain and look after your voice when you're going through 8 shows a week. With our special guest, Adam Noviello. Adam is an actor, performer, producer, writer, singer, and pop artist. They have over 100,000 streams on Spotify. It's actually ridiculous what they have been able to create. Adam is also a great and wonderful friend of mine, and we had the privilege of working together on an amazing musical called La Cage aux Folles, our first musical together. You are absolutely going to love this episode. Stop everything that you're doing, get a journal out, grab a coffee, and enjoy the episode. Thank you so much for being on the show, Adam.
Darling, thanks for having me. I'm thrilled to be here.
Yes, oh my gosh, there's so much history when I look at you between us both.
Oh my God, yeah. I always forget that as well. Like I feel like we've known each other a long time, but then I actually think about it and it's a really long time.
A really long time.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's so awesome. Well, I mean, it goes to show everything that you've done and the career that you've had. You are really pushing yourself as an artist and as a performer, and it's super, super inspiring. And I'm so fortunate to be one of your number one supporters and friend and have had the privilege to work with you. But to paint a little picture for people at home and anyone that's watching and listening, where did it all start for you? Before your career, before even training?
Yeah, well, I mean, it depends how far back we want to go, but I know for me, I remember singing around the same time I could speak. Like it's just kind of always been there for me. But like my earliest memory of it all was, I'm gonna say like 8 or 9, and I found my mum's Tina Turner Greatest Hits album. This is literally as far back as we're gonna go. So I found this album, and I think mum had it on the day before or something, and I was like, oh, what's this, mum? And she said, put it on. And I was just like absolutely enamored with this voice that I heard come out of the speakers. I was just like, it just made me feel so much. It excited me. It just enthralled me. And I remember thinking, what is this? And so I just dived deeper, and then my mum and dad had a DVD of one of her concerts, and I just watched it to death and just fell in love with the whole experience of live music and live theatre and watching Tina Turner, because she just made me feel so much that I just was like, I just want to do for people what she's doing for me right now. That's my earliest memory of like when it energized me. Wow. And it sort of all just took off from there. And I was very, very, very fortunate that my parents let me go into dance classes and singing lessons from an early age. And I went to a public school that did a musical every year. And that's where my love of musical theatre was born, because I did my first school musical when I was like 12 or 13. And just fell in love with the whole experience of it. I loved the community of it. I loved the friendships that were born out of it. And just the whole experience of telling a story from top to bottom and taking a group of humans on an adventure for a night. And I just saw it so early on. There was nothing else I wanted to do more. And I'm just one of the lucky ones, I think, that from a young age I knew what I wanted to do, and I don't know what my calling was, I think. So yeah, I think very young is the short answer to your question. It started when I was very young, but yeah, I just can't imagine not doing it. It's just in my body. It's just, part of me.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can definitely see that. And it's, as I said, very, very inspiring. So you knew from a really young age, and then you were like, okay, I need to pursue this or refine this, and you started your training. What did that look like?
It was a bumpy road, to be honest. I finished high school and did what a lot of sort of thespian wannabes did. I auditioned for all the sort of big institutions and got into none of them. And had this perception, I think, that a lot of young performers do, that getting into places like WAPA and VCA are the path, you know, and none of them wanted a bar of me. I didn't get callbacks for any of them.
So interesting.
Yeah, so I was 18 years old and I was like, I thought this was the journey, right? And I spent a little bit of time just thinking, well, that's it for me. Like, if I can't even get into university to study this thing that I love and this thing that I just feel like I need to do, what is it? What do I do? And so I took a gap year and I ended up getting a tiny itty bitty contract on Neighbours for a little while. That was just this tiny little featured bit, one of those blink or you'll miss me things, but that was really fun. And then the following year I auditioned again because I just thought I'm that way, and again didn't get in anywhere, but I was lucky to get offered the foundation year at VCA, which I don't think exists anymore, but at the time it was a 1-year scholarship year that was like tertiary training, so it was like 4 days a week, and at the time I was with like the main faculty at VCA, so I dived into that, and that was an amazing experience for me. I learned so much about myself, and you go into those things thinking, I'm really good at this, and then you start working with other artists and working with other people, and you're like, oh my god, there's just so much to learn. And so I did my 1 year at VCA, auditioned again the following year for all the big places, and then didn't get in again.
Wow.
Yeah, and so from there it was like, oh hell, like what do I do here? Like I just want to be on stage, I just want to do this thing, I know I'm meant to do this. Like I just couldn't, I just had such a bee in my bonnet about it.
In a calling, you just like, it's just have to.
Have to. And musical theatre was sort of my path forward from falling in love with that in high school of like, I love to sing and act, but then I love to dance, and like this medium combines all of that. So I just knew I wanted it. So then did some research, spoke to some teachers and things, and discovered the music theatre course at Patrick Studios Australia, which is now Patrick School of the Arts, and got accepted into that 2-year course, smashed that out, and then booked my first musical in my second year.
There you go.
And then the rest is, we're here now.
Yeah, wow. So the epitome of persevering when everything around you is saying no.
Honestly, and that was my introduction to being an artist, was no. And was being told no. And so I think what that's built for me is, resilience, but also just an undying persistence of like, no, I'm meant to do this, you know. I remember I went to this workshop when I was at my foundation year, and Rhonda Bergman was one of the speakers, who's a friend of ours now.
Yes.
And Rita said the amount of times in her life she's been told you can't do this, and she's turned around to people and said, watch me. And that was my journey from the very beginning, and it's kind of where I'm at now. If I feel like I need to do it and it's part of my destiny, then I'll make it happen. Yeah, and I was taught that early on in quite a hectic way, but I'm grateful for it because now I just have this drive and this work ethic that I'm really proud of.
That's incredible. In the moment when you were getting the no's, other than this calling or desire, what kind of picked you up or kept you going? Was it people around you, or was it just yourself you had to rely on?
I had a lovely support system of friends and whatnot, but I think honestly it was just the fact that when I sing and when I perform for people and do what I do, there is nothing that brings me greater joy. And there is no other moment in my life where I feel the most alive and where I feel the most myself than storytelling and doing what we do. So it was just that fire and that burn within my body that just said, I'm meant to do this, and it doesn't matter if 1 or 2 people are saying no, because someone will say yes. Someone will pick up what I'm putting down. I just knew it.
Yes.
And I've just carried that with me. And it makes getting the no's now at my age and the point in my career now much easier, because I just know that, right, this one's not for me. This one wasn't meant for me. You don't have that perspective when you're 18. You just think, oh, it's over. But at the,
you do.
But now a no is just one door closing, meaning I can open another. And that's the life of a performer, which
Correct.
you know,
So then you got into Patrick School of the Arts, and after persevering, you finally got in. What was the experience like training there?
It was exactly what I needed. I felt like I went to PSA as a strong dancer, and then I was like, oh no, I've got some shit to do. But it was great. It was so good. What is so good about the course there is that you're exposed to industry professionals. All of our teachers were like currently working in the industry, which meant teachers came and went, but it just meant that you were always working with people who were doing the thing.
Right.
So I loved it. And it was obviously very competitive, and you're surrounded by amazing performers, but I'm the kind of person that just tries to sponge everywhere. And I did that in full time. I do that when I'm working. I do it when I'm collaborating with people. It's just like, everyone has something to offer that I don't have. What's this person doing that fires me up? Or what's that person saying that I find really interesting? And I just got to do that for 2 years.
That's so awesome.
Yeah, and that's teachers and peers, everything. And so I just went in every day being like, I'm here for me. I'm here to get to the point where I can go into an audition and book the thing. And yeah, my first professional audition was Le Cage aux Folles, and I was 21, and off we went.
Yeah, so we definitely did. We went into that show and we were drag queens.
Girl.
It was a whole moment.
Insane. Like, I feel like I was preparing to be in a musical, but then in that show I was like, oh, now I have to do it in heels, and I have to learn how to do a face, and I had to learn how to crack a whip. I played a Hannah who cracks the whip. So I was just like, yeah, you feel like you're prepared and you're building all these skills to be in a musical, and then you get a job and it's like, oh, now you need to do it upside down and wearing something where you can't breathe, in a heel and spinning around, jumping into the splits, and it was like, okay.
It's definitely the epitome of the unknown.
Yeah.
I think you go into training and just, like you said, be a sponge, learn what you can, but nothing can really prepare you to just whatever show you're going to do. One minute you're tap dancing, 1 minute you're a Oompa Loompa.
Oompa Loompa, my God. God, yeah. And every job's different. Every single musical I've ever done asks something different of me, which is kind of the joy of it. No show is the same, and you can prepare as much as you like, but then you get into a room with people who've done 10 more shows than you have, and you're working with creatives from Broadway or from London who just have lived the dream. And so again, for myself, it's just a sponge. Like, what are these people offering? What are these people? Where have they been? What have they done? How can I apply that to myself?
So even from your studies, being that sponge, you've then taken that even into the industry as well.
Oh, God, yeah. Like, another great workshop I did at VCA was with Ben Vereen, and he said to us one day, he's like, as a performing artist, school is never out. And the day you believe you know everything, stop doing it. And I loved it too. And I loved it then. I was 19, but even now at my age, I'm just like, yeah, like, I will never ever know everything and be able to do everything, but I can learn. If I can't do that now, it doesn't mean I might not be able to if I actually set my mind to it. So yeah, to this day, I'm just all about what I can learn and how I can grow, because I think that's the beauty of being a creative. It's kind of endless what we can do. Yeah.
That's wonderful. And beyond the musicals and the opportunities we've had to work together, you obviously, like me, we love to hustle and we're not in work, and that really ties into the first topic I'd love to discuss, where it's how do we find that creativity as artists and even inspiration when you're not in work?
I think for me, you have to love it. I think if you want to go into this industry, as competitive as it is and as tough as it can be, you just have to love it so much that there is nothing else you'd rather do. That's just my opinion. I know that's how it works for me. When I'm not in a full-time gig or a long-term contract, I get up every morning and I think about, how can I share what I do? How can I do what I do today, or this year, or this month, or in this gap? So for me, finding motivation is always about what I can contribute, what I can say, or like, what's my perspective on things as an artist that I can share. I feel like I've always been working on 3 or 4 things at one time, but I think that's what keeps me alive, you know? Like, when we were doing Charlie, I was producing a film, and when I was doing Matilda, I was writing a cabaret show, and I've been releasing music now since last year, and I always just feel like I need to be flexing my muscle somehow. I always need to be putting my creativity somewhere, because I get really bored really quickly, and I get very restless. So my motivation always comes from the fact that I'm like, again, this thing that I need to do, how do I do it? And so I like to try things I've never done. I like to work with people and write with people, and from that, really cool opportunities have grown for me.
And did you find that having those things outside of your performing enhanced the time when you were on stage?
Yeah. I think for me, working on my own projects has always always enhanced my work in every show I've done. I'm one of these people that always seems to be working on 3 or 4 things at once, but I know I get restless really quickly and I get bored really quickly. And so sometimes when you're smashing out 8 shows a week, you've got some time on your hands when you're not in cover calls and doing press and whatever. But I always felt the need to just be creative in some way. And most of the time when I was writing things and working on things during my long contracts, I never really had an objective in mind with a lot of them. I was writing a cabaret show during Matilda, and then like during Priscilla I was writing a film, and then during Charlie and the Chocolate Factory I was producing that film. And a lot of the time it's just about throwing shit at the wall and see what sticks. I think that's just being a creative, and I know that doing those things just drives me and makes me happy. But then from that, some of those things grew to the point where I'm like, oh no, this is a thing, we should put this on, we should produce this. But then what that's done is that it's made me really get in touch with who I am as an artist, you know, how I sing, what's my point of view, why am I contributing to the industry, what am I contributing to the artistry of everything. And I think that's been integral for me as an artist over the years. I think when you're in full time, you work so hard to be as versatile as you can so you can be employable. But what I didn't do enough of back then was kind of really hone in on, what am I contributing? When I walk into the audition, what do I bring into the room that you don't? Or that this person doesn't, or that person doesn't? I was just like, I just want to be the best at everything. But now I'm like, no, what does Adam Noviello do? And I walk into the room now and it's like, right, well, this is what I can give you. This is the show, this is the role, this is what I would do with it. Does that work for you? And if it does, great, let's get to work. But if it doesn't, this one wasn't for me, maybe the next one will be. So I think doing my own projects and writing and working on my sort of side hustly things in amongst musical theatre has been amazing, and it's kind of made me the artist I am today.
And I'd love to touch a bit on that. This podcast is very much about performing arts and anything that kind of encompasses arts. And I really love promoting exactly what you're talking about, helping people see that it's not just about the musical theatre, it's about really loving it. And I would love to start changing the narrative of how much work is actually required to just put yourself on the table in front of a panel, but also just to continue working on yourself. And I'd absolutely love to explore more on the adventure that you've been on as a pop artist alongside all these musicals. You know, how did that start? And maybe tell the listeners that journey in a short, if you had to put it in like little gaps.
A little abridged version. Yes. My first love was music. Like, I told that story about Tina Turner. Like, I just wanted to be a singer from birth, it feels like. And so honestly, it was the pandemic. I'd always written songs as like therapy. Like, if there was ever a piano around a building I was working in, I always loved to sit around and just bash around and write lyrics and things. But it had never been something I wanted to pursue because I was so fortunate the music theatre grabbed me so young. I was 21 when we did La Cage and was very lucky to smash out back-to-back shows and kind of up until the pandemic. So yeah, I was at home in the pandemic. Charlie and the Chocolate Factory got cancelled. I was meant to start rehearsals for The Secret Garden in 2020 and that got cancelled. And so as a creative, we're like, what do I do? Like, where do I put all this?
I love it.
And I just decided that I was gonna write. I just like, right, I'm going to get up every day, I'm going to sit at the piano and I'm just going to write. I'm going to write 20 shit songs and maybe I'll find one I like. Or I'm just going to get up chord charts to songs I like and I'm just going to sing for joy because I just didn't want to lose the joy of it and what I loved about it. And in that I wrote a few songs and I'm like, these aren't shit. And I was lucky to connect with Oscar Sharrar because I worked with Tom Sharrar on Priscilla, and Tom's brother Oscar is an incredible musician and an incredible producer, and I just reached out to him and I was like, hey, I'm sitting at home drunk and unemployed and I've written these songs, like I'd love to know what you think. And we just went back and forth a few times and then he really rated my songs and then I was like, I would love to just record these. I don't know why. I was like, maybe I'll release them, maybe they'll just be for me, I don't know. And as soon as I could travel, I flew to Sydney and worked with Oscar for a week and I recorded 6 songs in 4 days and there was my EP and I just fell in love with the process of it all and I didn't know when we were going to go back to work. I just had no idea when we'd be able to do musicals again or be on stage again just because of the restrictions and all those things. And so I sort of went hard at it and I released Heretic at the start of 2022 and we went #1 on the iTunes dance chart and I've been doing it ever since. Yeah. And I've released 5 songs and I released the EP and I've released a bunch of remixes and the momentum has been beautiful and I've been performing as Adam Noviello and performing my own songs for a year and a half now.
And you recently went to the UK as well. How was that experience?
Wild. Again, just a beautiful product of just backing myself and wanting to just do the thing. And so Dolly Diamond, who's an iconic Australian cabaret comedian artist, I did her variety show at the Pride Centre, and I'd been umming and ahhing about going to the UK, and I've been umming and ahhing about the UK for years. But Dolly was like, well, I'm going over to do this show in Edinburgh Fringe and in London. Do you want to come? You can suss it out and just do this show. And I was like, yes. So, yes, I absolutely would love that. And so off I went, and I connected with artists over there through people I knew here, and was lucky to book a whole bunch of other shows. And I ended up performing at the Crazy Cocks on the West End, and I did a bunch of gigs in Edinburgh Fringe. I did Dolly's show and then did a late show appearance, and ended up doing like 9 gigs in 3 weeks when I was over there, and it was wild.
And then you also recently did a tour in Australia.
Yeah.
How was the difference in performing in the UK and here?
The gigs in the UK were all kind of sporadic. It was very much like we just come in and do like 1 or 2 tracks here and there, and I most of the time was featuring in other people's shows. But when I came back to Australia, I asked to perform at a Big Gay Day in Brisbane, which is a festival. And so when I booked that set, I was just like, that's a really big gig and it's in Brisbane. And then I got asked to perform at a honcho disco here in Melbourne. So I was like, how do I connect all these and go on tour? So that's what I did. I just kind of spoke to people I knew in various places, and I'm lucky I have a great booking agent now for my music stuff. And so I put together the Fumbling tour. So I released Fumbling and then went on tour like a week or 2 after. And again, just hustled it. Just put it together. Just did it.
Just do it.
Yeah, just do it. And that's my mentality for a lot of things, because I'm just going to die one day, doll. So I just want to milk it. I just want to milk it. So I did Melbourne, Brisbane, Sydney. It was crazy. It was so good.
That's amazing. And we'll go a little bit more back into musicals and even combine the both of the two. And when we're talking more about The Voice, I mean, you traveling, that would have done a lot on The Voice alone, and performing in places you've not performed before, but also being back in Australia and having done musicals for 8 shows a week. Your voice goes through a lot of tension and a lot of different styles. I would love for you to maybe give some advice on how you maintained your voice, and how, because you're also a singing coach, teacher as well, what maybe some tips and ideas around maintaining your voice through 8 shows?
Yeah, the 8-show week is a slog, and I think people don't understand that at the end of the day. It's hard work. As much as musical theatre as a profession, as an industry, is heaven, like it's the best. But it is. You're barking out 8 shows a week, and then sometimes if you're covering, you're doing a cover call once a week, and it's a lot. And so I find consistency is honestly the best thing. Everyone kind of has a different, I guess, method with vocal health and with maintaining vocal health. But for me, I've been my most vocally fit and vocally healthy when I'm doing 8 shows a week, because there's the consistency of doing it. I actually find it harder to keep my vocal health in check doing what I do now when the gigs are sporadic. A lot of the gigs I do now, you're singing at 11 o'clock at night and you're just swanning in and doing a 20-minute set and then taking off again. Whereas when you do a musical, you're singing the same score regularly. So the consistency I find is helpful. But it's about rest. When I tell people and I tell students I work with is that your voice is a muscle and your voice is an instrument, and you're not about to smash out a hectic piece of choreo without warming up your body. And athletes train, warm up, warm down to avoid injury, to avoid future issues with their body and their muscles. Your voice is exactly the same. So it's about making sure that you have rest time. It's about hydration. It's just about listening to your voice and knowing, right, well, when you get to Sunday and you've been belting top Zs all week, maybe not on your Monday do you then go to a festival and like, you know what I mean? So a lot of it's just common sense, but I think consistency with rest and consistency with actually vocalizing is key. I'm not the kind of singer that, you know, will do 8 shows a week and then spend my entire weekend off voice. Some singers do, that works for them, but I find that when you're doing a musical, you still have to have a life. I still want to be with my friends and meet people and things. So I will rest my voice in a way of like making sure I'm getting good sleep and hydrating and having some periods where I don't vocalize. But yeah, consistency and rest, honestly, because your voice is a muscle, and it's just treat it with kindness. Save your gift.
Save the gift. Save the gift. The name of the episode today.
Yeah, save your gift. Welcome.
Save the gift. And on here, we have such a variety of different people listening in. A lot of people are professional and they've been doing the do for so long, and some people are just getting started. There are a lot of people out there that are really strong dancers, but maybe fighting a bit of self-confidence within their ability to sing. What would you say to someone that's maybe that self-belief within themselves on actually vocalizing and singing?
I think you need to find the joy in it. When I teach, I work with a lot of dancers in that exact position where they've been dancing since they could walk, and they have such confidence with going on the floor and slaying choreo. I watch some of my students dance and they blow my mind, the confidence they have with it. But then you ask them to open their mouth and sing and they just fold in half. Which makes sense because like singing is a very vulnerable place. It's essentially cracking open your chest and putting yourself in a vulnerable spot and putting yourself out there. And you haven't got choreography to hide behind. The students I work with are so in tune with their bodies and what they do with their bodies. But then you ask them to stand and sing and it terrifies them. But it makes sense. But I think you need to find the love of it. You need to find ways when you can sing where you love to do it. And I often say to students, right, well, your practice this week is go home, do something you really enjoy doing, whether that's sitting in front of the mirror doing your makeup or doing your hair at the start of the day or in the shower or whatever, but find a part of the day where you can just sing for joy. So you don't have an audience, you don't have, I don't know, the anxieties of judgment or anything like that. And just open your mouth and sing, and who cares how you sound?
Yeah.
Sing badly, sing brilliantly, doesn't matter, but just find a point in your day when you can sing and it feels good.
That's wonderful, because I think a lot of us just sing because we want to get the job, or we're singing to sound a certain way to nail an audition. So that's great advice. Find moments in your week like you do as a dancer or as an actor, wherever your profession is. If you're wanting to increase that singing confidence, it's only going to happen by singing.
Truly. Yeah,
doing
truly.
more of it and understanding your voice as an instrument. I love that.
Totally. And don't make the only time you sing in the week your 30-minute singing lesson, because then you put all the pressure and the anxiety of like, oh, I need to sound good for my teacher, or I need to be prepared or whatever. But I mean, take all that away in your lessons first and foremost. Like, your lessons are where you're meant to like hit bad notes, make ugly sounds, and then laugh it off and move on. That's why you're there. Try things, play with things. Strong and wrong, I always say to my students, like, go for this, sound shit, we'll have a giggle and we'll move on. But yeah, you've got to find the joy and the love of it, because particularly if you want to go into a profession like musical theatre, like, yeah, you got to sing, you got to sing.
Yeah.
And it can't just be because like, oh, I need to sing my part. Because when you go on stage and you need to be telling stories and communicating to an audience, it can't just be about like, I'm making sound because I'm being told to. It has to be because I'm telling a story, and in this moment I'm
making it
function.
authentic.
Yeah. So if you find the joy of it, then it's all uphill from there, because then every time you open your mouth, it'll feel amazing.
Some advice now on a lot of people maybe are getting into class, they're doing the steps, they're finding that self-confidence, but there's always just this maybe thing in their mind or in their bodies, or maybe it's someone else that's kind of stopping them. But we have both worked for a while now. We know that there's moments where you stop and you have that moment that where you kind of get in your own way.
Oh yeah.
Has there been a time in your career where you've come to that point, and how have you kind of like gone through that?
Yeah, I don't think there is a single creative person who doesn't experience self-doubt because of the competitiveness of it, but also you want to do good work all the time. But I mean, recently I did this play called Moth by Declan Green earlier this year, and I was approached by the director after she'd seen me do another play the year before called Censor, which was this brilliant sort of cabaret-esque play that Brittany Shipway wrote. And I did that because it was this new piece and Britt asked me to be part of it, and Britt had written it for myself and Louisa Scrofani, so it very much played to my strengths. But then I got this phone call from Bryony Dunn, who'd seen me do that, and she said, I'm directing Moth, and I think you'd be really great as Sebastian. And I was like, I knew who Declan Green was as a writer, but I'm like, I don't know this play, like I would love to read it. And I read it and was like, absolutely not. No effing way. Do you think this is for me? Like, it was insane. It's this, Sebastian is a teenager who suffers from schizophrenia, who after this vicious attack from these school bullies disassociates and has this epiphany that he believes he's on this earth to save the earth from the impending apocalypse.
Wow.
Hectic. Absolutely wild.
And when she was creating it, she goes, Adam's perfect with it.
Yeah, like she's like, I'm going to do this play and you're going to play this role. And I was like, I had this brief moment of exactly that.
Yeah, no
absolutely
way.
Fucking not. No way in hell. And again, my background is musical theatre, and like I'd done a play at La Mama before, but I was like, this just feels too big for me. It feels just bigger than me. But once I sort of got over that and was like, but you know what, this woman thinks I can do it. And Bryony Dunn's an incredible director, and Lucy Ansell was in it, who's just this phenomenal actor. And I just went, you know what, I just need to trust that she thinks I can do this. So I'm just going to do it. So I said yes, and I got into rehearsals, and I think after the first couple of days of little niggles of, again, self-doubt, inner saboteur being like, this is not for you. Like, there are so many actors who could do this better than you. Why are you here? But it was one of the most creatively enriching experiences of my career, because the character was so far beyond who I am as a person. And that meant I just got to play with it so much and explore it so much. And we ran for a couple of weeks, and every single night I just found new things, new tools in my belt that I didn't know I was capable
And imagine
of.
if you listened to that self-doubt and stopped yourself. Like,
and I would have gone and seen it and been furious. Because the play was really good. And I would have been rivalable. I would have been like, shit, I should have done that. And now that actor's killing it. Why isn't it me? And so, yeah, I was very grateful, very, very grateful that Bryony believed I could do it. But that's just one example. I've had many moments where I've just gone into The Secret Garden was another audition I went into, being like, no way in hell are Opera Australia going to hire me for this big singing musical. I'm a singer, but this was like a big score. And I was like, fucking no way. And like, they gave me the Dickon material, and I was like, no way in hell. But you know what? What have I got to lose? I'll give it a crack. Booked it.
There you go.
You know, just because I just went in and just gave it a crack, threw shit at the wall to see if it sticks again. Just like, what have I got to lose? And just to put myself in the room and go, this is what I would do with it. And sometimes people go, you.
That's it.
Yeah.
So you just never know.
You never know, honestly.
I've heard that a lot of the time what you resist the most is what you need to pursue the most.
Oh, I love that. Oh, yeah. A friend of mine once said, what's meant for me is already mine, you know, which I really love now, because, I've gone into auditions before. I'm like, this is my show. I'm meant to do this show, and then have not made it to finals and been devastated, because I've been like, oh, no, that's my show. Like, I'm meant to do that. You know? And then, like I said, going in for other shows where I've gone no way, and then booking them. So just try. And if you want it and if you love it, like, it'll work for you, but you've just got to really love it and really want it. And that's been my whole career.
Yeah. Wow. I asked this question to everyone to finish off the episode.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just been so many amazing nuggets, and I hope everyone listening and watching is, got their notebook out, or if you're driving, you've pulled over just to listen, because it's so awesome. If you could go back to yourself when you were starting your career, what advice would you give yourself now?
Ooh, I mean, I think if I could chat to young Adam, I would just say, chill the fuck out. I think I went in, when I first started, just straight out the gate with this hectic energy of like, I'm going to do every single show under the earth, and I'm capable of doing every single show that's ever been written. But where I am now and what I'm doing now, I think the advice I would give myself would just be, work out who you are, work out what you do best, find your strengths, nurture them, finesse them, spoil them, because that's when you'll do really great work. It won't be when you're just trying to be good at everything and when you're trying to please everyone. And that's what I did early on. I think early on I wanted to be loved by everyone. I wanted to be as capable of doing every single audition that came, in the inbox. But I just don't think that's realistic. I think there are shows that I'm meant to be in, there are works I'm meant to do and ones I'm not meant to do, and that's all right. That's okay. No's are okay. Being told this is not for you is okay, because the thing that will be the one is out there somewhere. So chill the fuck out and just spoil yourself and figure out who you are, finesse who you are, because that's when you'll do great work.
And if people want to work with you or get in touch with you, I mean, we're going to put it on the blog and the website and in the show notes if you want to reach Adam. But for anyone that's listening and maybe driving, how can they find you?
They can find me on all social media, Adam Noviello. I'm on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, the lot. All my tunes are on Spotify and Apple Music and wherever you stream your music as well. So if you want to check out my tunes, you can just, wherever you get your music, you can find me there as well. But Instagram's where I spend all my time, really. So people can find me, and I'm always up for chats, and I'm always up for meeting and working with people. So
awesome. And if you have any questions for Adam, please email us at info@thedive.com.au, and we'll get the questions over to Adam, and maybe your questions will be answered on an episode that's coming up soon.
Heaven.
Thanks so much, Adam, for being here.
Oh, the best. It's been so nice.
Thank you. Thank you for listening in to today's podcast with The Dive. If you have struggled with maintaining your voice through 8 shows a week and you want something that can help you, I've added in a free resource which is actually a yoga flow to awaken your vocal cords. You can find this on our website at www.thedive.com.au under the tab called Freebies. And of course, like, comment and rate on your preferred platform today if you liked it, as well as subscribe and hit that notification button to make sure that you are notified when our next episodes are released. If you have any questions about the podcast or to Adam, you can email us at info@thedive.com.au as well. I can't wait to hear from you. Have a wonderful week and see you on the next episode.